Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar from Brittnee Bond, and we are going to talk about how to attract new co-working members through events and building a solid community. So I'm really excited to have all of you guys on board, and I have a whole slide deck that I'm going to go into, but while people are getting on, I just want to quickly say welcome to the webinar, and I'm hailing today remote working from Lagos in the south of Portugal. I'm actually sitting outside of the co-working space because I came here all the way to get good Wi-Fi and the co-working space is closed randomly. So that's how remote working works. But let's go right into the webinar, and I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share my screen. So let's see if I can figure out if you can hear the birds in the background. Let's see here. How do I share my screen? I think I have to get admin rights in order to share my screen. If someone could help me do that. No, I found it. Sorry, this is all very new for me. Okay, sharing my screen now. Okay, so let's go into this. Let's see if I can hit play on this, and you can people let me know if you can see my screen on here? I think you can. Okay, cool. Chat, yes, cool. You can see my screen. Okay, so I'm gonna go into it. Hold on, I have to close that out. Okay, so I gave this talk at a co-working conference called CU Asia in February, and it went over really well, so I wanted to share it again with you guys, and Office R&D is gonna give everyone the slides and everything afterwards, so don't worry about trying to follow along with the slides, just kind of hear me out. My name is Brittnee Bond. I'm the founder of Remote Collective. We want everyone to have access to remote work. I've also done co-working and co-living consulting for the past about 5 years. And this is launching spaces, helping spaces scale, and mostly the thing I love doing is community building. And this, you'll find out why. So just a little about me. I grew up in California, and I've helped launch all these spaces, increase the revenue streams, grow communities. I think I'm at 47 countries. In the last week, I've been in 4 countries on 3 different continents. So yeah, I've seen some stuff related to remote work and co-working. So I want to go straight into some tips, some foundational things that you need to know about events. So like everyone grows or wants a space, they want that vibe of the space, but they don't sometimes know how to build out, like what events do you really need? So let's go right into it. So no events equals no community, which eventually leads to no reason to be in your space, unless they need the functional side. So sometimes you're in a country or a space where people really need the Wi-Fi or they need an office in order to work, but I would be careful about with Wi-Fi getting better. I don't want you to play this game because eventually you'll lose. Like eventually as Wi-Fi gets better, there's more spaces available. If the only thing you're banking on is the fact that you have a space, you're gonna go under eventually. So for example, I consulted for a space and I helped them scale to 3 different locations, but they were having such a hard time with the community, and I was able to, because this is what people were doing. So people would go there for 1 month, they would self-organize, find their community of people they needed, and then after they were there for the month, because the events weren't that great and the community vibe wasn't that great, they ended up leaving and just finding their own space and working from it. Sometimes they even rented their own office space and kept the community going from there. So you don't want this to happen in your space. So the sooner you realize this, the better, that people are not just there paying for your Wi-Fi. They are paying to access your ecosystem, so you better have one. And I'll explain what an ecosystem means for a co-working space if you're a little bit unsure of what that means. So it's your network and your community, which becomes a revenue stream. If your community is strong enough, then they'll always come back. I've had people that I've built out spaces for say that they talk about it like around the world. They're like campaigning for this one co-working space because the community vibe is so good that they felt like family there. And that's the kind of vibe that you want in different ways. Even if you're doing things from a startup perspective or for corporates, people want to feel like there's something that they have to come back to. Okay, so if you're like, okay, Brittnee, I don't really understand, you're like, I get what you're saying about events, but I don't really understand what kind of events do I need to throw in order to create this vibe. I'm going to get very practical on this and tell you some tips. So again, don't worry about the slide deck. We'll send it to you after. Just hear me out. And if you guys have questions, put it into the questions box, and I'm going to do a Q&A at the end. Okay, so this is my period of ritual events. And yes, I made this up, but it works. So ritual events, what that means for me is that if someone drops into your space on a Tuesday, they know to expect an X event on every single Tuesday that you have created. It's basically like if you left your space, these ritual events would be going nonstop to the point where people expect them to happen and they're part of the vibe of your space. So what I believe as foundational events that you should have is ones where you can connect and learn from each other, because people have their own businesses, they have their own things that they're doing. The reason why they're going into your space is they want to connect to other people, or they want to learn something from other people or from the events that you give. I believe that co-working spaces should always have events where they're giving back into their community, and that's giving back to each other through skill shares or your local community incorporating it in some way. And then the top one, it's always fun, always cherry on top, is having fun. So I'll go into very specific examples of each one now. So connecting types and learning events. So member orientation, so coffee or breakfast. I helped start this at Dojo in Bali, where if you're new into the space, they invite you very strongly to come to the orientation breakfast, which happens every Monday. And during that breakfast, we go over how to stay safe in Bali, different things that, how you can integrate with the space. So this is how you can respect our space, and this is how you can show up in our space in order to contribute to the community. There's another one that's really good is speed networking. So just lining people up and having them have like a couple minutes where they talk to each other and then moving around in the table. And it's a really great way to just quickly make contacts. Weekly business masterminds. This is something that I have started in many co-working spaces, and it's an integral part to connect with each other and feel like you're really giving back to your community and helping each other with the skill sets that you have, and also just supporting each other. So if you guys want the outline for the mastermind, I always give that out freely, so let me know. And then Skillshare talks. Everyone has some knowledge that they can share. You can give that, encourage your members to give back by doing Skillshares and sharing their knowledge with the community. Okay, so side note, but also super, super important, you need to protect your community. So bad events are worse than having no events at all. Don't have salesy people using your space to be slimy. So in Chiang Mai and Bali, we have something called, like, there's e-commerce, there's drop shipping. Nothing wrong with that. I have tons of friends who are super successful at e-commerce stores, but we had people that were coming in and using the co-working space to try and sell their course to other people, that they can make $10,000 in 1 month on e-commerce if they buy their course. And they were using the platform of the co-working space and the trust that the co-working space has built up in order to sell to the members. And that's really did not go over well. So again, protect your community. This is your ecosystem, and this is your revenue stream, which, if you don't realize it yet, so you really need to be protective of it. Okay, so the give back section. Different types of co-working spaces that I've seen that do this really well is, if you guys don't know, 91 Springboard is the biggest co-working space in India. Love you guys, 91 Springboard. And they have an amazing mentorship program. I was there in February. And they really connect with corporates, and I'm outside a co-working space now, so this is remote work. So 91 Springboard connects with corporates, and they get really big people in these big companies to come in and just give their time away to young startups that really need it. And completely everyone's doing this free of charge. And my mind was blown. I talked to the mentors. I was like, why are you guys doing this? And they're like, we love helping. It gives value into our lives when we feel like our wisdom can help others and bring it up. Such an amazing example of an event where you can give back. Dojo, I helped build out something called a co-giving program there, and that's basically a way for them to use the co-working space to bridge the gap between digital nomads or people working in the space that had skill sets with orphanages and nonprofits in the community that really could use those skill sets. And then Rasmussen Plus in Europe, they are an amazing program where I worked with them in some co-working spaces in Croatia to help cultivate young entrepreneurs in countries post-communism, post-war countries, just countries that really need help with entrepreneurship. So they go in and connect with the local co-working space and do a ton of really cool entrepreneurship events. Okay, So I always put this back on you guys, like, how are you going to positively impact your community? Like, we don't be like the WeWorks of the world. There's nothing wrong with WeWork, but I really think a lot of us that are in co-working for the grassroots reasons, it's because we want to change the world. We come from corporate and we really want to make the world a better place. Like, I was 6 years in the legal field in the US, and everything was about how much money we could make, find the biggest loophole. Nothing was about holistically impacting the community that you're in and like really thinking about how you can help other people. And that's what I think is the beauty of co-working. So I want to put that on you guys to really think of that when you're doing your space and also planning your events. Okay, so if you're not sure what your community needs, you're like, I have a space, I love my area, this is my hometown, I want to build out a co-working space, whatever it is, and you don't know how to do your events, ask your community. So do a survey, hold a town hall meeting, which just means like bring everyone together in your community and ask them. Speak to local nonprofits who are already making impact. Figure out what's going on in your community and see how you can integrate into it instead of shove what you want onto it. It's okay to try out different things, but really you should be trying to integrate what already is happening, because you can do more harm than good if you're just coming in and like bestowing what you want into the community. But that's a whole other webinar. Anyways, so number 3, the cherry on top, the last tier of the pyramid of events, is fun. So monthly parties, beer nights, outings. Again, your people are coming to you because they want that vibe. They want to feel like they're part of something and there's things happening and people are like meeting each other and making friends and connections. Okay, so should you do all of these events? How do you know which events you should host in your space? This is a really good question and you should think about it very thoroughly. So decide what your space, what you want your, okay, so this is super important, is your branding of your space is, sorry, I'm just gonna wait a second for this guy to leave. Anyways, remote work people. Okay, so decide what your space needs and you want it to be known for, and then tailor your events back to that theme. So if you're, so like, again, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So if you're the only one in your area, you don't need to differentiate that much, but that won't last for long. Again, don't play the long game of like just having a service office and let's just have whoever wants to come can come and it can be whatever vibe. It's like, no, we want our space to be about like Impact Hub. We want our space to be about like giving back to our community, making a solid impact, or a tech based co-working space. We want to empower like local tech companies, startups, to be able to help them create accelerator events, do this different things. Or, you know, like there is a co-working space in Berlin that I was a part of, and their whole thing is having being able to have childcare within your co-working space. So like their thing, that's their thing, their vibe attracts their tribe, and you need to have a vibe, otherwise people are just going to come until someone else has a better vibe. And they want to feel at home, so give them something to feel like they're proud of and they can attach themselves to. So these are some options of different ones that you can go after. So you can decide if you want to be top tier, like corporates. This is an example of like WeWork. They really go after corporates, and their branding and their events all fall in line with that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Just decide if that's what you want to do. The middle tier is funded SMEs, smaller teams, freelancers sprinkled in. But really, like their hardcore people are probably like smaller teams that can use the space. And a good example of this is 91 Springboard. They're exploding. They have like 700 members per one co-working space. As you can see, I love 91 Springboard. Okay, another option is nonprofit, so government linked. So like that's the thing that they're known for. And then resort locations. So this is usually where I usually live in Thailand. And this is full of digital nomads like me who work and travel remotely. So each one of these is going to have specific events that are tailored to this specific community. So you need to decide what you want your community to be known for and then work backwards and build out events that support that. Okay, so pricing and type of events will determine who you cater to. So the Hivery is a really good example. They're right outside San Francisco. They're a women's only co-working space, and they have like more high-end events, and like it's a women's only co-working space. So that's definitely a very set vibe that they are attracting a certain amount of people, a certain type of people, right? I would say certain co-working spaces, especially in Southeast Asia, have more of a party vibe. People get their work done, but they're there after hours, like everyone's going out for a beer, and it's just like yeah, it's just a fun time to have a good community, right? Impact Hub, they are a lot more like social enterprise, nonprofit focused, so a lot of their events are going to be tailored towards that. And then government linked to build out entrepreneurship ecosystems. A lot of this I'm seeing especially in Croatia and other like Eastern European countries where the government is realizing that they can use co-working spaces to kind of build back up their economy. So you need to know what your community wants in balance with what you want to provide. So this is kind of my plug of to test out different events and see which events have more attendees. Like, if I'm going to launch my own co-working space, I'm launching my own co-living space right now in Chiang Mai, and I'm going to do the events that I want to do, right? Like, there is a balance of serving your community versus showing up and doing things that you're really excited about. So I would just try and find the middle line between testing out what you're excited about and what your community really wants, and you'll be able to see that depending on how many people show up to your events. Let's see, okay. So track everything online, and I'm really serious about this. Like, you're only worth as much as your email list, and I waited for years and years to start building out my email list, and I'm like cringing at all the people that I like don't have contact with anymore because I didn't put them on an email list. And this might be hard when it comes to doing everything on Facebook, so I actually recommend having a Facebook event, doing everything, but making people book through like Eventbrite or some other program where they can track your email and you can start building out your list, because that goes to your newsletter, which goes to like your complete access to your community, and that's super important when you're building out your community and your events and your vibe, because you're only as big as as you can reach people, right? So if you don't I'll stop talking about how much email. Just know that email is very important and have your list. Okay, so remember the rules. No events equals no community, which equals no reason to be in your space long term, and no return revenue and limited growth. So if you need me to break this down even further, happy to chat in the Q&A, but really I can't specify this any more strongly, that like your events are really the foundation. Like, you can have really nice furniture, you can do all the champagne on tap that you want, but if you don't have good events that are like connecting very deeply with your community, like in a heart way, then they're not going to come back. Their needs are not serviced. So you really need to figure out how to do that. Okay, so go back to the period of ritual events. Remember that the foundation of events is events where your community can connect and learn. So connect to each other, learn from each other, learn from you, all the things. The second tier is to give back. So giving back to each other in skill shares or with the local community. And then the top one is fun, because everyone likes to have a good barbecue once a month, right? So I believe, this is my own personal mission statement, that it's our responsibility as space providers to make the world a better space, a better place, maybe a better space and a better place. And also to make good money doing it. You know, a lot of us leave corporate and we think like money is evil and we're not allowed to have fun and make money at the same time. I think all of that's BS. I really think that you should be, otherwise your space is going to close, right? So open yourself up to the fact that you can do all the things, you can make all the impact in the world, and you also can make good money doing it, because I've seen it. It's possible. I help spaces do this. So please, I want that for you, and I hope that you can believe that and do it. Okay, so that's my talk. Thank you so much. My name is Brittnee Bond, again, founder of Remote Collective. If you want to, there's so many ways you can find me online, but Remote Collective, we have a YouTube channel all about co-working and co-living, so look us up on YouTube. I have a website called bondworks.co, and yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm going to stop the screen sharing and go into to see if we have any Q&As.